Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. We are at half-time. It's Rangers 0, Celtic 0. I'm here with Laura Bradburn and Russell Boyce. We're at State of Mind Studios. Plenty to be positive about in that first half. First of all, the first point I'd raise is debut boy at left-back, Juranovic, has looked very, very composed, Russell Boyce.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke before the game about the fact that these guys are coming in with already a lot of experience behind them. He's not a new kid in the block. I think that, the fact he had the most touches, I think the stat came up in the first half. He's looked very comfortable. The funny thing about it is you have a feeling that's not his first choice position. And yet that sort of atmosphere, that sort of magnitude of game, he looks already like the exact type of signing we needed in the full-back areas. And right now, what we're looking at, we felt we need the right back and the left back. If Juranovic can cover both, right, and you look at the performance of Tony Ralston today at right back, you do the math. That's actually maybe a position with Liam Scales joining now as well. Those full-back areas now seem to me to have more depth than we perhaps perceived before.
No, that's a good point, and I'm glad that you've used that segue into the loving for Tony Ralston. And I made the point during that first half, Laura, that if this was a guy who'd come in, it would be unusual for someone to come in at 22, having come through the system. But if this season was all we had seen of Tony Ralston, I mean, there would be absolutely no doubts whatsoever. That was a real battling display in the first half. There was a few moments there where you're thinking to yourself, right, there's no way he's going to stop this, but he never gives up. I don't think he's as limited with the ball at his feet as a lot of people think. He's broken through a few times, but you reckon that going forwards on the right-hand side, that's maybe where he could improve, particularly with the balls coming in?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we were talking about during the match, and not to sound too revisionist about it, as we're often accused of being, he became a bit of a punchline, I think, a bit of a go-to name that people just said when they were talking about slipping standards at Celtic, and it perhaps extended to a degree that was unfair on him and didn't accurately reflect what his ability was. Is he the best right back that we'll ever have? Will he make the shirt his own for the next 5 years? Probably not. Is he more than good enough to be at the club? I would say yes, he is. I think attacking-wise, we definitely could have been doing with better delivery from him. There was a couple of crosses that he maybe overhit and that kind of thing. But from a defensive point of view, he's been absolutely fantastic. He's outpaced Morelos on a couple of occasions. He's shut Ryan Kent down at the edge of the box and muscled players off the ball and things like that. And he is distributing the ball into midfield good from the back as well. So there's definitely strengths to his game. And I think for Ange to look at him coming in without all the prejudices that a lot of other Celtic supporters will have, he'll look at him and say, he's more than good enough for the domestic game.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Now, there's some points coming in relation to the performance of the other centre-halves, other defenders rather, and to be honest with you, I thought there was quite a few important interceptions, challenges by Stephen Welsh, but also I've got to say, I think that Karl Starfelt, when he's defending, Russell looks far more comfortable when, he's just to go and win a header, when he's to go and win a 50-50 or a challenge. He seems much more comfortable doing that side of the game than give him the ball at his feet with a few options in front of him. And I'm not having a dig at him. I think he's looked pretty steady at the back today, but he's definitely a defender first and foremost, is he not?
Well, this is the thing. We discussed the other night, Starfelt doesn't seem to fit the prototype of an Ange type of player. Or is Starfelt the first signing we've seen that was of Ange adapting? Because Starfelt, to me, first and foremost, likes defending. He wants to defend. He's no frills. Yes, we could talk about when the ball's at his feet. Does he look a wee bit uncomfortable? Is he going to be the guy that can play it out from the back? Perhaps not. Maybe it's all going to be based on Starfelt being your traditional defender and whoever he plays with being that ball-playing sort of partner. And I think, maybe Starfelt is an Ange signing, and the first recognition we've got of Ange when he went, all right, we need to mix it up here when we're playing domestically in Scotland. This is a different kettle of fish. Sometimes in domestic football, we've known this for years of fraternity. You need players that know just how to dig. You know what I mean? You need players that sometimes the slick technique side of things might not be the priority. It might sometimes be about, can he put his head in the end of that cross? Can he get a last-ditch boot in? Can he hoof it? I know that sounds really basic, but I actually think Starfelt, to me, today, looks like an out-and-out, just old-school defender. And for that, there's actually maybe a bit of value in that to our team right now, because we have a team that is based on playing proper football, total football, Ange ball, whatever you want to call it. And when you bring Starfelt into that equation, he's maybe the balance, or I think he'll be one of a couple in the team eventually, once we get this squad ironed out, for the course of the season, that you'll see that balance the progressive, forward-thinking footballers that we've got in the team.
We've seen it before. I mean, when you're thrown in there as a Celtic centre-half, sometimes there is a period that you're adapting to it, you're acclimatising to it. I mean, the big example, one of the finest centre-halves I've ever seen at Celtic Park was Paul Elliott. And it took him a wee while to adapt. And probably that was the reason for a lot of his bookings, because he was off the pace. Just looking at the amount of missiles, I think you've got to describe them as, that have been thrown onto the pitch at Joe Hart's goal there. I didn't realise it was so bad, Laura. Loads of missiles thrown onto the park. I don't know, if it's plastic cups or otherwise, it shouldn't be happening. But there was a penalty shout in the first half, Laura. Is that something that, again, you try and gauge the player's reaction? Kyogo, brilliant bit of play. The ball's blocked by a Rangers arm. The player is looking in the opposite direction. When it comes down to the referee's performance, how do you think he's performed in that first half?
I think he's let the game flow, which is a good thing. I think the game can suffer, especially against Rangers, and in the opening sections, the game can suffer from being a bit too stop-start, and teams can't get to play. So from that point of view, I think he's done all right. The penalty shout was a bit of a grey area one from me. I haven't had a chance to look back at the replay in very much detail, but I think you can always tell from the immediate players in the immediate vicinity's reaction as to whether there was a handball. And I think it definitely, from the reactions I saw, it definitely touched his arm. The discussion has to be then whether he knew anything about it, because he was facing the other way. It's one of those decisions that I think could have gone either way. I don't think there could have been complaints if it was given, but I don't think anybody's sort of jumping out their seat that it wasn't either.
We've 2,000 live viewers on the show at the moment, so thanks every single one of you for tuning in and getting involved in the comment section as well. Daniel Mack, am I wrong, or do we not have any wingers on the bench? No, we don't have any natural wingers on the bench. I think if there was to be a shuffling of the pack, it would be Christie probably going out wide because he can play right or left. He's so adaptable. But another point that's coming in, and I find it quite interesting, from CFC 1967, Turnbull and Abada missing in action, Christie left and Kyogo up top, Roger Con. I've got to agree with regards to the Christie and Kyogo, and might get a wee bit of stick for saying this. I think Kyogo and Edouard, Russell, are on the same wavelength. I think they have linked up. We're going to get to the missed chance by Eddie, the goal-edge chance that he missed, right? But I think in terms of their general play and the way they've linked up, Kyogo and Edouard look comfortable playing together. However, I think Christie has been far more effective out left this season, and it would give them something else to think about with Kyogo running through the middle. Do you think there's anything in that? And again, we mentioned Turnbull and Abada. I said in the first half, we need to get the ball to Abada more often. I don't think we've fed him all that much. Again, the other night there in the European match, I seen a lot of criticism coming his way. It was they doubled up on Abada. They actually see him as a threat, and I think he is seen as a danger man, even though he's only played a handful of games. We know that he's 19. He's just arrived at Celtic, but he is generally one of the danger men. What do you reckon of this suggestion that we need to make a change right now? I can't see it, judging by how Ange has managed the games previously, Russell.
It's interesting because the fact of the matter is, Kyogo's most effective displays for Celtic are through the middle. It's undeniable. He is more of a threat. I still think he's carried a threat today, by the way. The one he puts on a plate for Edouard is brilliant play from out wide. But I just also think, from a Rangers perspective, they had to fear more if they were up against Kyogo, the unknown quantity that is got a goal record already, that is definitely sending sort of shockwaves through Scottish football at this stage. I'm not going to say the world, but these goal records so far has definitely made people sit up and take notice. You put him out wide, you're negating that. I feel Kyogo would be more effective up top. I would like to see him up top and in tandem with Edouard. Why not? I think when we go forward, we look dangerous. As for Turnbull missing in action, there was a moment in the game where we all admired it, where he plays a ball through for Ralston, where he does the wee sort of pivot, and he plays the ball through it, and it's just top drawer. So he's not been missing in action. Has he been the best player in the park? No. I think missing in action is a wee bit harsh on Turnbull. There was a moment there where he created an opportunity otherwise we wouldn't have had with a lesser player on the pitch.
Well, yeah. What's your take on that, Laura? I know you're a big fan. I think we all are big fans of David Turnbull. That moment that Russell described, everybody in here watching that game applauded. It was just tremendous onto Tony Ralston. But I think that they've targeted some of our dangerous players. I mean, Turnbull is that guy when nothing's happening, that if you give him enough space, he will pull a shot out the bag 25 yards out. And Rangers know that. Of course they do. Abada has looked like dynamite every time he's played in on the right, and they've targeted him and they've tried to shut him down. But I just think the more we give them the ball and the more it opens up, then I think it would be a wee bit premature to be talking about making that change at this moment in time, as quiet as they have been by their own standards in the first half.
Yeah, I think there's enough there to suggest that, especially towards the end of the first half, or certainly the middle portion of the first half, that we were getting some joy going forward, and we were starting to, pick the lock, so to speak. And I think that is something that if we just persevere, then we will be able to action in the second half. I would keep with things as they are. I think Abada has been a bit missing in action, but I think the thing is, if you can isolate somebody in his position who's out wide, then very often the game does pass him by, just by the nature of if you mark a wide player out the game, that the game will pass them by. Turnbull hasn't had the most effective game that he's ever had in a Celtic shirt, but like we said before, he's got that ability in him the same way that a Rogic would, or somebody like that, where they don't need to do much for most of the game if they can just provide that wee bit of magic that gets you the chances to score the goals. And he did that with Ralston, and I'm sure he would again in the second half.
Absolutely. I think everybody's of the same view when it comes to the penalty decision being correct by the referee. But one thing that I think he did get wrong, and I'm going to bring up McGrory's point here, Turnbull wasn't a booking. I'd agree with that. I don't think that it was a booking for David Turnbull, but he's the only player on the park who's been booked in the first half. We can't get into the second half without looking at the biggest chance of the game. Kyogo done so well, laid the ball into Yedi. It looked harder to miss, but miss he did, Boise. Massive, massive chance in that first half.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Iwulamo, I apologise if I pronounced that wrong, but the Scotland match, remember when he did the exact same thing, opens the boot, it comes off the heel. I called it as soon as it happened. I went, he's not trying to control it or that. He's not being inaccurate. It's literally came off his heel. I think McCoist was right. Sweep it in with your left foot. Don't let the ball come across. You don't need to. You're 5 yards out. Sweep it home. Anything on target is in, bar a miracle-like dive by the goalkeeper that just happens to bounce off him. I mean, sweep it in with your wrong foot. And the thing is with Edouard, he's good enough to do that. He's got the ability to use his left foot. And what we've now got a situation with Eddie is make or break time. Here's your legacy. Here's where we stand. There's 45 minutes away for you being remembered as part of the team that failed the 10 and that miss against, Rangers, right? Or go out, win the first, Glasgow derby of the season and leave in a blaze of glory. He's got 45 minutes to define his own Celtic legacy. I hope he does it.
And with that, let's go to the second half. Brilliantly put, Russell, boys. Thank you for joining us on A Celtic State of Mind.